I'm Kurtop, and these are the 100 most terrifying artifacts found by archaeologists. The flying Tic Tac, another UFO, has been found on Mars. At least that's what social media users decided when they saw a strange photo taken by the NASA rover. Among the rocks and dust, a smooth cylindrical object appeared in the frame, resembling the famous Tic Tac mints. The play of light and shadow made it even more mysterious. It seems as if it is hovering above the surface. This photo wasn't taken yesterday. It was taken by the Curiosity rover back in 2020 during the search for traces of ancient life. But attention to it only flared up now when one of the Reddit users posted the photo with the caption "Tic Tac on Mars," and then it all took off. Some even compared it to that very UFO that was observed in 2004 by U.S. Navy pilot David Fravor over the Pacific Ocean. At that time, the pilot described a perfectly white object without wings or windows, shaped like a tic-tac, which moved at incredible speed and suddenly disappeared from the radar. But if we go back to Mars, most likely it's just an unusual rock. It appears to be flying due to the camera angle and shadows. A wooden figure from the Chimu culture. During excavations at the Huacha Takainemo site, which belongs to the Chimu culture, archaeologists discovered a perfectly preserved wooden figurine. This artifact, measuring 47 by 16 centimeters, depicts an anthropomorphic figure with a face painted red. According to scientists, the discovered item highlights the ritual function of the site where it was found. In the 9th to 15th centuries AD, the Chimu culture flourished on the northern coast of Peru. It developed in the Moche River Valley, based on the Mochica culture. Later, Chimu monuments are associated with the Timor state, founded by Taikanamo in the early 13th century and conquered by the Incas around 1470. The figure has a flat, oval-shaped face painted red, as well as a prominent nose. Inside the almond-shaped eyes and the ears, researchers found traces of a black mixture, which may have been used to attach mother-of-pearl plates. On the head of this figure is a trapezoidal headdress decorated with 7 alternating light and dark vertical stripes. The figure's left arm is bent at the elbow and pressed to the body, while the right arm extends along the body. A loincloth, or a kind of triangular skirt, is depicted at the waist of the figure. It seems that originally the torso and arms were also painted red. According to researchers, the figurine that was found confirms the ritual function of the structure where it was discovered. German bunker in the Arctic. In the north of the Kola Peninsula in the harsh Arctic tundra, there is a half-ruined German bunker from the Second World War. Officially, it's an ordinary military facility built during the Nazi occupation of part of the northern USSR. However, over time, legends began to spring up around it. Local residents and ufologists claimed that it was not just a supply base. Allegedly, one of the secret strongholds of the Third Reich was located here, where the Germans transported equipment, artifacts, and conducted mysterious research. In some versions, it even included experiments with anti-gravity and interdimensional transitions. The bunker attracted special attention due to its anomalous activity. Equipment near it malfunctions, compasses go haywire, and tourists report strange lights in the sky. In the 1990s, not only historians but even esotericists came here on expeditions. There is a hypothesis that the site is connected to the legendary Base 211, supposedly a secret Nazi hideout in Antarctica, except that in this case it would be an Arctic branch. Of course, there is no scientific evidence for this, but the fact remains. Around an ordinary-looking bunker, an almost mythical story has grown, which still captures people's imaginations.
Захоронение кораблей эпохи викингов.
A unique discovery from 2 Viking-era boat burials was found in Sweden. Ship burial was a special funeral practice in which the deceased was placed on a ship or boat, often together with valuable grave goods, such as jewelry, weapons, and other items. This type of grave usually dates back to the Vendel period or the Viking Age, when cremation of the dead was common, so the graves are very well preserved. This custom was probably reserved for people with a higher social status in society. In Sweden, only about 10 boat burials of this type have previously been found, mainly in the provinces of Uppland and Västmanland in central Sweden. One of the 2 recently discovered graves was intact, while the other was damaged, probably when a much later cellar, dating from the 16th century, was built. The remains of a man were found at the stern of the intact boat burial. A horse and a dog were found in the bow, which probably belonged to the man. They may have been sacrificed to accompany him after death. Archaeologists also found personal belongings, including a sword, a spear, a shield, and a richly decorated comb. Wood and iron nails used in boat construction were also found. This is extremely interesting because boat burials are excavated very rarely. Now we can use modern science and methods, which will lead to new results, hypotheses, and answers. An ordinary stone concealed something extremely important, an important secret. During excavations in southern Spain, archaeologists found an artifact that could change our understanding of prehistoric Europe. We're talking about a stone with ancient carvings discovered in the Marbella area. According to preliminary estimates, it is over 200,000 years old. If the age is confirmed, this will be one of the oldest known symbolic images found in Europe, almost 100,000 years older than the famous cave paintings of Spain. The discovery was made at the Katukaria site. It has been known to archaeologists for a long time, since the 1950s stone tools were previously found there. But the engraved piece of gabbro rock became a real sensation. Several lines carved on its surface may indicate the first signs of symbolic thinking in ancient humans. Eyeliner and earwax removal tools. In the United Kingdom, archaeologists have discovered hundreds of items buried together with wealthy Anglo-Saxons. Experts say they found the grave goods after excavating the 141st burial site in Wendover, Buckinghamshire. The artifacts range from jewelry and beads to swords, shields, and spears. All of them were buried together with the dead. Interestingly, personal hygiene kits were also found at the resting places, including earwax removers, toothpicks, and tweezers. Researchers even found brooches, combs, and a cosmetic tube that might have contained a substance used as eyeliner. This is one of the largest Anglo-Saxon burial sites discovered in the United Kingdom. Experts say these findings will help analyze what the culture and society were really like during a period with no written records. 1,500 years ago, people in Britain stopped documenting anything. Traditionally, this period was considered the Dark Ages. But archaeology helps fill in these gaps. By studying the things our ancestors left in the ground, their glass, jewelry, weapons, and even their bodies, we can build a rich picture of a dynamic and vital period in our history. There were a total of 138 graves at this site. Of these, 141 were inhumations and 5 were cremation burials. Along with personal hygiene items, more than 2,000 beads, 89 fibulae, 51 knives, 40 buckles, and 15 spearheads were found in the graves. Archaeologists noted that the items in each burial were adapted for each individual. That is, the items had a certain significance for the deceased and for those mourning at the grave. 2 mysterious holes are known to science as SK54. This skull caused the team of paleontologists from the University of Johannesburg numerous headaches because of the mysterious holes visible on its surface. This skull belongs to a young Paranthropus solidus, or Australopithecus solidus, who lived in South Africa a little over 1.5 million years ago. The first clue in the puzzle was given by other remains found in the same Sterkfontein cave. The hominids to whom they belonged, according to researchers, were killed elsewhere, after which the attacker took them to its lair. The second clue was the diameter of the holes and the distance between them. Paleozoologists helped with the research. They found the presumed culprit, the Pantherpardus begani, an ancestor of the modern leopard. They confirmed this by using various fossilized skulls of these animals and even analyzing the trajectory and pressure points of modern leopard bites. $2 billion for silence about aliens. The well-known ufologist Stephen Greer is once again in the spotlight. He stated that he received a generous offer from a high-ranking U.S. government official, a person he calls one of the top UFO experts. According to Greer, he was offered a huge sum just to keep quiet. Greer founded the Center for the Study of Extraterrestrial Intelligence back in 1990. Over the past few years, He has repeatedly claimed to have had contact with aliens and to know about secret government operations. His reputation is controversial, even among ufologists. Some see him as a brave whistleblower, while others consider him a fanatic without evidence. He said that, in 1992, General Albert Stubblebine, the former head of U.S. military intelligence, allegedly personally offered him $2 billion to give up his public activities. At that time, Greer was just over 30, he was a young doctor, and according to him, he seriously considered it, but refused. He believed that all of this was part of a large-scale disinformation operation involving the CIA and other intelligence agencies. The host of the podcast where this story was told expressed doubt, calling it hard to believe. But Greer insists he is ready to take lie detector tests and his wife can confirm everything he said. However, General Stubblebine died in 2017 and can no longer refute or confirm this story. A network of 3,000-year-old tunnels. Thousands of years ago in the Andes, in what is now Peru, there was an ancient civilization. The Chavin, who left behind a temple complex in Chavin de Huantar, under which a huge network of tunnels and galleries was discovered not so long ago. Archaeologists from Stanford University are convinced that the hidden chambers were used for religious rituals. As the lead author of the new study, John Rick, noted, some of the dark, isolated rooms may have been used for something like sensory deprivation. At the same time, the larger galleries were clearly places for conducting religious ceremonies. The archaeologists clarified that the hidden rooms in question cannot be considered tunnels in the literal sense, since they were not dug into the ground, but built inside a large temple complex that was constructed in several stages between 1200 BC and 200 AD. The passages remained hidden from outsiders for 3,000 years. It took scientists 15 years of excavations to discover 36 galleries connected by tunnels. The study of this archaeological site is ongoing, so researchers have significant new discoveries ahead of them. Evidence of a parallel universe. A group of physicists from the US and Switzerland have announced a possible discovery that could change our understanding of reality. Researchers have recorded strange quantum deviations in the particle accelerator that do not fit within the framework of classical physics. In their opinion, such anomalies may be the first hint of the existence of parallel worlds. One of the leading participants in the project suggested that this could be the so-called shadow universe, an invisible reality that subtly interacts with ours at the subatomic particle level. So far, this data does not provide 100% confirmation, but the very fact of such observations has already caused a strong reaction in the scientific community. If the hypothesis is confirmed, it will be a real breakthrough. Humanity will come closer to understanding the multidimensionality of the universe, and in the future, to creating technologies for moving between dimensions. For now, all this sounds like science fiction, but such ideas are already moving beyond pure theory. Earlier, scientists Paulo Bassani and João Moguejo also expressed the opinion that the structure of the universe and the very fact of its existence may be closer to the biblical description than to the traditional scientific model. The line between science and metaphysics seems to be blurring. An early medieval cemetery has been discovered. Archaeologists in Germany have found 110 graves dating back to the 6th and 7th centuries. Among the finds are gold and bronze items, as well as a decapitated horse. Early medieval burials were found in the city of Knittlingen in southwestern Germany. Most of the 110 graves were arranged in rows, but some of the elite individuals were buried in a circular pit. The burial structures range from simple graves to wooden burial chambers. Only the last pieces of wood have survived. Some of the deceased were buried in wooden coffins. Ceramic vessels and bronze bowls, which probably contained food, were also placed in the graves of men and women. Animal bones and eggshells were found in them. The findings provide insight into the social status of the deceased. Some of the men's graves indicated that the deceased were cavalrymen. Next to one of these burials, a decapitated horse was buried. As expected, given Knittlingen's location in a fertile landscape with ancient settlements, the research also revealed individual prehistoric, that is, Stone Age finds. Several ceramic fragments that were discovered date back to the Neolithic period, approximately from 5000 to 4500 BC. Mysterious mummified remains. In 1742 in Bavaria, Sister Josefina Rosenthal became pregnant and was very embarrassed by this, as were the other nuns in their convent. It became even stranger when a special medical examination revealed that Sister Josefina was still a virgin. In the 8th month of pregnancy, Josefina went into labor, and a girl was born whom they named Maria. She survived despite being premature, but Sister Josefina died soon after giving birth due to severe bleeding. Little Maria was very weak, but the nuns managed to nurse her back to health, and over time they began to consider her a saint, calling her a divine child. When Maria turned 33, she suddenly fell ill with a mysterious disease. The treatment had no effect, and soon Maria died. According to the nuns, she followed the same path as Jesus Christ. The mummified remains of Maria Rosenthal's head are still kept in this monastery, along with a small vial containing some of her dried blood and a lock of her hair. There is a legend that the nuns specifically preserved this blood because both Josefina and her daughter Maria were actually internal hermaphrodites, meaning that a new human life could self-fertilize and develop inside their bodies. There are also unconfirmed reports that in the 1950s, some doctors illegally obtained a piece of Maria Rosenthal's remains and conducted research on them. They allegedly found out that at the time of her death, Maria was also pregnant and carrying a child. Maybe it was this unusual pregnancy that had such a negative effect on her body, which led to her death.
Идол со сломанной рукой.
On the beach of Peta Rushikonda in India, nature revealed an unexpected find. An ancient granite statue of the god Vishnu was washed ashore. The artifact is about a meter tall, and according to experts, its age may reach up to 700 years. The statue is split into two parts, and one of its arms is damaged in two places. The uniqueness of the find lies not only in its preservation, but also in the material. At that time, most statues in the region were made from candlelite, a local stone, but this sculpture is carved from granite, which is already a rarity in itself. This may indicate the special status of the idol or its origin from another area. Vishnu is one of the main deities of the Hindu pantheon, the protector and guardian of the world. He is often depicted with 4 arms, holding symbolic objects. According to experts, the broken hand of this statue once held a shankha, a conch shell symbolizing the divine sound of creation and a call to virtue. Most likely, the statue once stood in a temple. Then, according to ancient tradition, it was ritually sent into the water after being damaged, as was often done with destroyed sacred images. Perhaps the sea has returned it to the land once again, reminding us of long-forgotten stories. Finds with traces of medieval shoemakers' teeth. In modern Ryazan, Russia, many pieces of shoe leather have been found during excavations. Leather with bite marks that are several centuries old. One of the remarkable finds is a boot shaft that was used as a gag. Here, in the southeastern part of the Kremlin, there was a shoemaker's workshop in the 15th and 16th centuries. While examining the finds, specialists noticed that many fragments of leather preserved traces of human teeth. These imprints are most clearly visible right after the leather is removed from the wet cultural layer. Later, as it dries, the traces disappear. If the leather was moistened, the traces would return. These traces were found on various leather fragments, on cutting scraps, on boot parts, on household items, and even on the so-called thick sole leather. They were different. Some were clear, others faint, arranged in a single semicircular group or in several groups, and sometimes they overlapped or even merged with each other. Archaeologists studied the prints under a microscope with optical magnification up to 40 times. By the nature of the prints, it became clear that craftsmen left them while working with leather. Using their own teeth, they held the leather pieces, scraped, stretched, or even chewed the leather to soften it a bit. Traces of teeth from people of various ages have been found. The teeth of the inhabitants of medieval Pereyaslavo-Ryazanski were relatively even. Malocclusion was found in 4 out of 16 thoroughly studied prints. One of the remarkable finds is the shaft of a leather boot, which, judging by the tooth marks, was used as a gag. The billionaire was accused of attempting to hide a UFO. British ufologist and director Mark Christopher Lee made a bold statement. According to him, evidence of the existence of aliens has already been obtained, but it is being carefully hidden from the public. At the center of this story is Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg, who, according to Lee, is funding a research project called Breakthrough Listen. It was this program, which searches for extraterrestrial signals, that detected a strange radio signal coming from the Proxima Centauri system, the closest one to Earth, 2 years ago. Located just 4.2 light years from Earth, initially it was explained as ordinary satellite interference. However, Professor Simon Holland, former science editor at the BBC and a NASA consultant, refuted this version. According to him, the signal has all the characteristics of extraterrestrial origin. Researchers from Cambridge have allegedly already discovered signs of biological activity on an exoplanet in this system, but they are not publishing the data yet due to possible political consequences. There is concern that if this information becomes public too early, it could cause panic or an international race for contact. Holland and Lee believe that the dissemination of such data is strictly controlled, and it is possible that scientists from China or Russia might try to make such information public first. A 2,000-year-old burial. The remains of 5 people 2,000 years old were found in a recently discovered Iron Age settlement in Dorset. The people were buried in a crouch position along with sacrificed animals. The settlement, which includes roundhouses and storage pits, was discovered by student archaeologists from Bournemouth University in September last year. The ancient village was named Durapolis because a once large and bustling farming settlement, dating to around 100 BC, was located nearby. It appeared long before the Roman invasion of Britain and is believed to have been occupied by the Durotriges tribe. For 3 weeks, a team of 65 students from Bournemouth University carried out excavations at the ancient settlement site, located near Winterbourne, Kingston. During this time, they discovered the bodies of women and men, as well as animal body parts in pits that were originally used for storing grain. The bodies were found in a crouch position in oval-shaped pits. They were buried together with large pieces of meat and clay bowls that originally contained drinks for the afterlife. According to experts, this was how members of the tribe left their dead everything they needed for the journey to the next world. The crouch position for burial was standard practice during that period. It began to be used in the Bronze Age and continued into the Iron Age. Later, the team will continue to explore and scan the territory of eastern Dorset in search of other settlements, which they hope may reveal more secrets about life in pre-Roman Britain.
Лодке 10 000 лет.
The canoe from Pacey was found in the Netherlands during highway construction in 1955, and it is the oldest boat ever discovered. According to the Drents Museum in Assen, it was made by hollowing out the inside of a log with an axe. Since some researchers wondered if this object could be an animal trough, even though people did not keep animals in the Netherlands at that time, the museum made a replica and put it on the water, proving that it could float. The tomb of the legendary Ramesses III's military commander. In Egypt, archaeologists made an interesting discovery. An ancient tomb, about 3,200 years old, was discovered in the northeast of the country. It may have belonged to a high-ranking military commander from the time of Ramesses III. The main clue is a gold ring engraved with the name of the pharaoh himself, found inside the tomb. The tomb is built from mud brick and includes the main burial chamber, as well as 3 additional rooms. Judging by the architecture and the items found inside, this place was intended for an important person closely connected to the military. Among the artifacts are arrowheads, vessels with inscriptions, a box, ivory, and other household and status items. Special attention was drawn to the inscriptions mentioning the name Karimkeb, a famous military commander who later became pharaoh, ruling several decades before Ramses III. This may mean that the tomb was built during his reign and then reused later. This practice was quite common in the ancient Egypt. Ancient zigzag object. Chinese archaeologists studied the historical monument of Wodian and discovered traces of ritual sacrifices from the early period of the Xia dynasty's rule. According to CGTN, among the findings, an unusual ceremonial structure stands out. Wodian is a well-known ancient site in Yuzhou, located in the central Chinese province of Henan. Here lies a large sacred complex, which is believed to have been built around 2 millennia before the Common Era. At that time, about 4,000 years ago, the Jia dynasty ruled China, and its capital was the city of Wodian. Archaeologists have discovered an unusual ancient structure, a zigzag-shaped object that is 31 meters long and 26 meters wide. The area of the strange structure is about 800 square meters. At the base of the unique object, traces of rich offerings were found, such as the skeletons of various animals and also mollusk shells. It is assumed that these are the remains of grand feasts that were held here as part of ritual ceremonies. Scientists hope to make new discoveries at the Wodian site that will help shed light on the history of this place. Evidence of the first people in Britain. At one of the oldest Paleolithic sites in northern Europe, experts found evidence that a town on the outskirts of Kent was home to Homo heidelbergensis. It is believed that the ancestor of the Neanderthals, Homo heidelbergensis, occupied Britain between 560,000 and 620,000 years ago, when it was not yet an island and was still connected to the European continent. The researchers' findings may also indicate the earliest processing of animal hides in prehistoric Europe. The Fordwich site, located in an ancient riverbed, was first discovered back in the 1920s. At that time, local workers discovered stone tool artifacts known as hand axes. But a new excavation team led by the Department of Archaeology at Cambridge University not only discovered new flint artifacts and the first scrapers ever found there, but also managed to determine their approximate age. The researchers used a modern dating method known as infrared radiofluorescence. The artifacts are exactly where the ancient river left them, and that means we can confidently say that they were made before the river moved to another.
Часть долины.
Tunnels under the pyramids. Under the Pyramid of Khafre in Egypt, archaeologists have reported the discovery of a mysterious system of underground structures. A study conducted using radar equipment revealed the presence of 5 identical structures with sloping roofs and 8 deep shafts, each going 648 meters into the ground. According to the researchers, all of them are connected by 2 chambers about 80 meters wide. According to preliminary data, the total length of the underground complex exceeds 1.9 kilometers. Scientists suggest that the structures were created artificially, but their purpose remains unknown. Some are already calling it an underground city, capable of changing our understanding of the scale of structures in ancient Egypt. However, not all specialists agree with such bold conclusions. Professor Lawrence Conyers, an expert in ground-penetrating radar, expressed doubts about the reliability of the data. According to him, modern technologies do not allow us to look underground at such depths with the accuracy required for such statements. He urged caution and believes that the discovery can only be confirmed through actual excavations. The mummy of a woman paralyzed after a stroke. Scientists used an X-ray machine to study an ancient Egyptian mummy buried with a crutch and found that it belonged to a woman who died at the age of 2,540. Pathologies in her skeleton indicated that she had suffered a stroke, which led to paralysis on her left side. According to researchers, the red shroud of this 2,700-year-old mummy highlights the woman's high social status. The development of paleoradiology, that is, the study of bioarchaeological materials using modern imaging methods, radiography, computed tomography, and magnetic resonance imaging, 3-dimensional reconstruction, and some other technologies introduced into medical practice. At the end of the 20th century, this allowed scientists to make significant progress in studying mummified remains. In recent years, a large number of Egyptian mummies have been studied using paleoradiology methods. This has made it possible to take a new look at the evolution of a wide range of infectious and vascular diseases, as well as tumors. For example, a recent study showed that 29 out of 76 ancient Egyptians studied suffered from atherosclerosis. In addition, paleopathologists have found evidence of the widespread prevalence of tuberculosis in ancient Egypt, including among children, as well as malaria. Scientists noted that the mummy attracted attention with its red cloth covering its head and body, The remains belonged to a woman who died when she was between 25 and 40 years old. The researchers noted that her right arm was extended along her body, while her left arm was bent and pressed to her chest, with the hand curled. In addition, the woman's head was facing downward, and the position of the left fibula indicated that the foot was turned inward. The bones of the feet themselves are missing. The woman suffered damage to the right hemisphere of her brain. Apparently, after the age of 23 to 25, she had a stroke that led to paralysis of the left side of her body. However, she lived for a long time after that. This is indicated by the difference in the thickness of the cortical bone. According to scientists, this is the oldest recorded case of stroke described in paleopathological literature. The mystery of ancient spheres. Scientists have uncovered the secret of mysterious stone spheres found in East Africa. For a long time, it was believed that these were simply natural formations, but new research has shown that, in fact, these are some of the first all-purpose tools used by ancient humans. In the Upper Awash Valley, in the area of the Melka Kunturi culture in Ethiopia, archaeologists discovered more than 30 spherical stones made of basalt. They are between 600,000 and 1,700,000 years old. Along with them, thousands of other stone tools were found, as well as hominid bones, from Homo ergaster to Homo sapiens. All this suggests that these places were actively used by ancient people for a very long time. Research by paleoanthropologist Margarita Musi showed that the basalt spheres were not used by chance. The surfaces of many of them are covered with traces of impacts, which indicates their use as hammers or crushing tools. Moreover, the stones were selected by weight, shape, and hardness. The harder ones were used to work other stones, while the softer ones were used for plants or food. Lomekwi stone tools. It's truly fascinating and very touching to be the first to pick up a stone artifact since its original creator placed it on the ground millions of years ago. Who that original creator was remains unknown. The Lomekwi tools were made for hammering and cutting long before the genus Homo appeared, and that was about 2.8 million years ago. The traditional story in human evolution research suggests that the origin of stone tools by our ancestors was linked to the emergence of the genus Homo, and that this technological development was connected to climate change and the spread of savannas. The discovery by the West Turkana Archaeological Project team of tools that are 500,000 years older than the earliest known Homo fossils shows that it is quite possible that other earlier hominins learned to make tools, or that some as yet unknown members of the genus Homo appeared much earlier than we thought. Aliens called home. Former American counterintelligence agent Luis Elizondo has once again made a sensational statement. According to him, some UFOs observed by the military clearly display engraved symbols resembling ancient scripts. He claims that these signs may be an attempt by aliens to convey information or even instructions. Elizondo previously led the secret AATIP program, which studied aerospace threats. He says that he personally saw oval objects with unusual surfaces, on which symbols resembling hieroglyphs or runes were engraved. He believes that such things are not put there for no reason. It's part of communication. Interestingly, some of these symbols look similar to ancient scripts found on Earth. According to him, the Pentagon has long been comparing these signs with ancient alphabets, trying to find a match. It's possible that aliens use a universal visual language, which means we have more in common than it seems. Elizondo even mentioned the phrase, "They've already called home," hinting at attempts to contact other worlds. Elizondo's testimony is also confirmed by other witnesses. Military pilot Jake Barber described how he saw an object of non-human origin just 150 feet away from him. Later, he was allegedly taken aboard a helicopter. Elizondo is convinced that there are many such craft, and U.S. intelligence has been studying them for a long time, including fragments, microchips, and even biomaterials. He urges the authorities to disclose this information and start an honest dialogue with society. Australopithecines from the cradle of humanity. Archaeologists have clarified the age of the Australopithecines, whose fossilized remains were found at the Sterkfontein site. Cosmogenic dating showed that the South African individuals lived 3.4–3.7 million years ago. not 2.6 million years ago as previously thought. The revised age makes the South African hominins contemporaries of afar Australopithecines and some other Australopithecines from the Middle Pliocene. In South Africa, near Johannesburg, there is a complex of sites called the Cradle of Humankind, which is included in the UNESCO World Heritage List. In an area of about 474 square kilometers, there are many limestone caves that are rich in fossil remains. Fossilized remains have been discovered at this site, in particular those of the African Australopithecine, Australopithecus sediba, Paranthropus, Homo habilis, Homo naledi, and some other hominin species. The excavations have yielded a huge collection of finds. By the end of the 20th century, more than 300 fossils belonging to African and robust Australopithecines and early Homo were known. The most famous among these finds is the skull of Australopithecus STS5, discovered back in 1947 and known as Mrs. Pless. Unlike most East African sites of such antiquity, it is difficult to determine the age of the finds from Sterkfontein, since there are no volcanic deposits there that can be dated using reliable physical methods. After conducting a huge number of analyses, archaeologists concluded that all the fossilized remains of Australopithecus found in Sterkfontein date back to between 3.4 and 3.7 million years ago. In South Africa, the Australopithecines from Sterkfontein lived about 1 million years before Paranthropus, early Homo, and Australopithecus sediba. 11 bottles of whiskey on the beach. During a regular walk on the beach in the Atlantic City area, a poodle named Teddy unexpectedly became an archaeologist and dug an old bottle with a cloudy liquid out of the sand. His owner, 28-year-old lifeguard Austin, at first thought there was just some regular trash from vacationers inside, but after taking a closer look, he realized the bottle was sealed and clearly ill. While examining the find, Teddy dug up another, then another. In total, the dog dug up 11 bottles, each with a label that read Hotel Lincoln. As it turned out later, this was whiskey produced at a Canadian distillery in the late 1920s and early 1930s. This was right in the middle of American Prohibition, when alcohol was banned and smugglers were actively transporting liquor across the border. Judging by the corks and markings, the whiskey lay in the sand for almost a century. Now Austin is considering whether to keep the find for himself or give it to a museum. Regardless, the treasure hunting dog's story has already spread through American media. The lost 2,000-year-old ancient city of Bassania. Polish archaeologists may have discovered the 2,000-year-old lost city of Bassania in Albania. Archaeologists from the University of Warsaw have discovered the remains of 2 large ancient stone structures on a hilltop near Shkodër in Albania. Just a few years ago, it was believed that only natural rock formations existed here. According to the researchers, this is probably Bassania, the city described by the Roman historian Livy in the context of battles between Roman troops and the last king of Illyria, Gentius. In May 2018, archaeologists excavated only part of the walls and a doorway. The uncovered gate was flanked by 2 bastions, with massive defensive walls more than 3 meters wide leading to them. Their outer parts were made of profiled stone blocks. The space between them was filled with small stones and earth. According to researchers, this type of construction is characteristic of Hellenistic defensive structures. This dating is also confirmed by items found by archaeologists near the walls, coins and fragments of ceramic vessels from the 4th and 1st centuries BC. This means that the city functioned during the time of the Illyrian kingdom, which ceased to exist at the turn of the millennium after the Roman invasion. The city was destroyed over the years, and its walls slid down the slopes. It also served as a local quarry. Many of the surrounding houses are built from large blocks taken from the archaeological site. Despite erosion and human activity in the ancient city, archaeologists were fortunate to find fragments of ancient clay pottery. Thanks to their analysis, it was established that the hill was inhabited as early as the 2nd millennium BC, the Archer's Tomb. While laying a new power line in Germany, archaeologists came across a rare find, an ancient burial site about 4,500 years old. In the ground near the city of Förderstedt, there was a whole burial ground of 10 graves belonging to the Bell Beaker culture, which existed during the Copper Age. Researchers were especially interested in 3 well-preserved graves, which, according to scientists, contained the remains of warriors, most likely archers. All 3 bodies were buried in a characteristic pose on their sides, with their faces turned to the east. This ritual was typical for the bell beaker culture. They were named for ceramic vessels shaped like inverted bells, often placed in graves, as it was believed food in them aided the journey to the afterlife. In one of the vessels found, archaeologists even discovered food remains after thousands of years. One of the graves contained an especially interesting find, a stone bracer, about 8 centimeters long. This is a protective part of an archer's equipment, so that the bowstring doesn't hit the arm when shooting. In another grave, arrowheads and a barely visible trace of a quiver were found. The quiver itself probably decayed, but its shape was suggested by a change in the color of the sediment. Although such finds may point to the military past of the deceased, the role of hunters cannot be ruled out. It's possible that these people were both warriors and food providers at the same time. Voids. Scientists want to perform an ultrasound scan on a huge pyramid that is 140 meters tall. They plan to use large telescopes to search for particles that will help us see what's hidden inside. The most interesting thing is that cosmic rays are used for this. They will help reveal the mystery of 2 enigmatic voids inside the pyramid. One of them is located right above the large passage leading to the king's chamber. Its size is impressive, 30 meters long and 6 meters high. Scientists are not yet sure what awaits us inside. It could be one large space or a series of small rooms. It could be a hidden burial chamber of Khufu, or perhaps this place played a role during the construction of the pyramid. To solve this mystery, scientists use muons, elementary particles that are formed when cosmic rays collide with atoms in the Earth's atmosphere. With their help, it's possible to create a map of the voids inside the pyramid. Muons behave differently when interacting with various materials, such as stone or air. This way, scientists can use muons to see what is inaccessible to ordinary observation.
Гигантский меч из Японии.
In Japan, there is a unique sword that is believed to have been forged during the Edo period. Measuring 465 centimeters in length and weighing 75 kilograms, it is recognized as the largest Japanese sword in the country. This sword was presented to Hanaoka Hachiman Shrine in 1859 during a ceremony honoring the imperial monument by supporters who shared the views of imperial patriots like Yoshida Shoin. The sword was forged with the hope that it would ward off evil and demons and could create a bright, pure, and peaceful society. The sword is kept in the treasury of Hanaoka Hachiman Shrine and is usually not displayed to the public. However, it can be seen with a special guide by appointment only. Toys of ancient Roman children. Children in ancient Rome were good at sports. Swimming was especially widespread in areas near the sea, while running, wrestling, and athletics were common everywhere. But what else was there? When it came to using objects for games, the most common ones were those that children today are also familiar with. For example, Roman children played with something similar to a ball, as well as with yo-yos. Romans and their children also flew kites and walked on stilts, just for fun. They played intellectual games and board games, such as tic-tac-toe, which is confirmed by archaeological evidence, carved boards on the steps of the Forum right in the center of Rome. One of the board games was a game called tabula, which was similar to backgammon. In fact, it is considered the predecessor of backgammon. In Greece and Romania, this game is still called by the same name it had in ancient Rome. Teenagers learned to play ludus latrunculorum, a type of Roman chess and checkers. Tabula is thought to have originated from these games. Chess, however, was likely created to teach military strategy on the battlefield. War was a popular theme overall. War games with wooden swords and shields were very popular, with kids forming armies that fought against each other. Considering Roman militarism, it was quite appropriate that adults encouraged boys to develop a military mindset from an early age, especially as Rome conquered more and more territories. Besides battles, Roman boys made miniature chariots in which they harnessed small animals like mice or chickens and raced them in their cities. But dolls shouldn't be forgotten either. Hundreds of dolls have been discovered during excavations all over the former Roman Empire. They were carved from various materials. The cheapest dolls were made of clay or wood, while the more expensive and durable ones were made from animal materials, such as ivory. Expensive dolls were often decorated with miniature rings and headbands. Interestingly, dolls changed over the centuries as high-class fashion evolved, a real celebrity cult. For example, dolls from the 3rd quarter of the 2nd century AD had hairstyles imitating those of Empress Faustina, the wife of Emperor Marcus Aurelius. When children reached adulthood, the toys of their youth usually disappeared. In Roman times, a ritual was common. When girls got married, often at the age of 13 or 14, they burned their dolls in the fire, symbolizing the end of their youth. This is also evidenced by the fact that the dolls that have survived to this day were usually found in the graves of girls who died in infancy or childhood. This applied to boys as well. The discovered remains will rewrite the history of the pyramids. An unusual archaeological discovery in one of the Egyptian pyramids has cast doubt on the conventional understanding of burials in ancient Egypt. Archaeologists have discovered the skeletons of people whose bodies showed clear signs of hard physical labor, which is not typical for the nobility who were usually buried in the pyramids. This may indicate that the pyramid tombs were used not only for the burial of the elite, but also for workers or highly skilled craftsmen. The discovery was made in Tombus, an archaeological complex in present-day Sudan along the Nile. After the conquest of Nubia, around 1500 BC, this region became an important Egyptian colonial center. The ruins of at least 5 clay pyramids were discovered here, where human remains and various ceramics were found, vessels, vases, and funerary cones. Notably, the skeletons differed. Some were from sedentary people, while others were from those who were active. Scientists suggest that the burial of workers together with members of the nobility could symbolize their service even after death. The tomb of a 10th century warrior in Poland. The remains of a warrior buried at the end of the 10th century in an earthen mausoleum were discovered in the village of Boz in central Poland. According to researchers, this man had elite status and spent most of his life in Scandinavia. The necropolis dates back to the end of the 10th and the first half of the 11th century and consists of elite burials of several dozen people. This is evidenced by the rich grave goods. Andrzej Buku, an archaeologist and professor at the University of Warsaw, offers a new interpretation of the origin of this necropolis. In his opinion, it was not originally a cemetery, but a single grave. The mausoleum of a prominent member of Mieszko I's elite, the ruler of Poland from 960 to 992. The mausoleum was built as a large earthen burial chamber, about 3 meters in diameter. The mound was topped with a stele. The grave was surrounded by a rectangular palisade. The entrance to the tomb was from the west. The body of the deceased man, who was 35 to 45 years old, was placed in a wooden coffin. According to Buku, the deceased received numerous gifts for his final journey. Fragments of clothing in the form of linear fabric have been preserved, as well as iron fittings from a knight's belt, a knife in a leather sheath, and coins. One coin is from Saxony, the other from Czechia. An analysis of strontium isotopes in the deceased's teeth indicates that he was born in northern Poland, but he was buried according to foreign rites. In addition, people of likely Scandinavian origin were later buried in nearby graves. Archaeologists believe that although the deceased buried in the mausoleum grave was born in Poland, he spent a significant part of his life in Scandinavia. There he rose to a high position in the social hierarchy. At some point in his life, he returned to his homeland. A frog or a jade woman in labor? Archaeologists have presented the first results of excavations at the Svinjarička Čuka site in southern Serbia, and they turned out to be truly impressive. This site, located in the South Morava Basin, has become a real window into the past. Here, remains of settlements about 8,000 years old have been discovered. The earliest finds date back to the early and middle Neolithic period, roughly from 6,100 to 5,500 BC. Among the many artifacts, special attention was drawn to a small jade pendant resembling a frog or a figure in a birthing pose. It was found near one of the ancient houses. It weighs only a few grams, no bigger than a matchbox, but its significance is enormous. Jade is not found in these parts, and its nearest source is in southern Bulgaria, which indicates complex connections between ancient communities. In addition to the jade figurine, researchers found 115 clay statuettes and remains of structures, indicating permanent residence rather than temporary camps. People returned here later as well, during the Bronze and Iron Ages. One Bronze Age burial surprised even experienced archaeologists. In a stone box lay a person with more than 30 golden ornaments. Such luxury is unusual for the region and may be connected to the cultures of the lower Danube. Remnants of white and red wine. Chemists and paleobotanists conducted a study of the contents of 3 Roman amphorae found on the seabed off the coast of Lazio. Inside these vessels, they found traces of resin extracted from pine trees, pollen, and plant tissue, including remnants of grapes. Analysis showed that the amphorae contained wine. 2 of them held white wine, and 1 contained red wine. In ancient times, the transportation of grain, olive oil, and wine played a leading role in Mediterranean trade. Amphorae were used to store and transport these goods. Usually these were clay vessels with a wide upper part, a narrow lower body, a narrow neck, and 2 handles. The production of amphorae was carried out on a large scale, and each manufacturing center followed a specific standard of shape and volume. By the shape and size, you can usually tell what product the amphora was intended for. For example, the rounder ones were for olive oil, and the narrower, taller ones were for wine. The inner surface of the latter was sometimes coated with resin. Resin, like clay with lime, was also used to seal the neck. A group of scientists from Italy and France, led by Donatella Magri from the Sapienza University of Rome, studied 3 ancient Roman amphorae found in 2018 on the seabed near the modern harbor of the Italian commune of San Felice Circeo. From the bottom and inner walls of all 3 amphorae, the scientists collected samples of organic materials for chemical analysis using gas chromatography, mass spectrometry, as well as for paleobotanical analysis. As a result of the analysis, the chemists found that there was resin inside the amphorae obtained from pine trees. All the samples also contained tartaric, malic, and pyruvic acids, and 1 amphora also had syringic acid. In addition, the scientists found acid esters in the resin, which are produced from acids and alcohol. Chemical analyses indicate that amphora SFC1 contained red wine, while SFC2 and SFC5 contained white wine. The Galloway Hoard and another exciting discovery. A rare rock crystal jug found wrapped in cloth as part of the Galloway Hoard, which dates to around the year 900, has been conserved. A Latin inscription written in gold was discovered on it. The inscription states that the jug was made for a bishop named Higo. The Galloway Hoard is the richest collection of rare and unique Viking Age items ever found in the British Isles. It was discovered in 2014 and acquired by the National Museums of Scotland in 2017. The hoard includes more than 100 items such as brooches, ingots, glass beads, a Christian cross, and a silver vessel. Some of the fabrics that originally wrapped the items have even survived. It is believed that the crystal jug, about 5 centimeters tall and resembling a richly decorated perfume bottle, served a church function. Now it has been carefully separated from the wrapping. The Latin inscription on the base, written in gold letters, translates as Bishop Higo ordered me to be made. The inscription is in Latin, which in those days was the universal language of the Western Church. According to records from that period, we know that in early medieval Northumbria, there were several clergymen named Higo. Some studies of the artifacts included 3-dimensional X-ray imaging. Scanning was done with the British Museum, allowing the examination of the object while still packaged and undamaged. Rock crystal is unusual in itself. It's one of those materials that was highly valued in the ancient world for its transparency and translucency. That's why it's associated with purity. Gold almost enshrines it. It has become a kind of relic. A major discovery for Britain. In the north of England, archaeologists have made a truly remarkable find, which is already being called one of the most significant for understanding the Iron Age in Britain. We're talking about the so-called Melsonby Hoard. More than 800 items were found near the village of Melsonby in Richmondshire, North Yorkshire. These artifacts were buried about 2,000 years ago, in the 1st century AD, and according to scientists, they belonged to a member of the Celtic elite, possibly even a ruler. Among the finds are 2 massive cauldrons, a horse harness assembly, bridles, ceremonial spears, dozens of iron parts from wheels, and rare items decorated with coral. All this, according to experts, indicates an incredible wealth for those times. Moreover, many items were deliberately damaged, broken, or burned as part of a ritual, possibly a funerary one. Although no human remains were found at the site, the nature of the hoard suggests a symbolic burial, a demonstration of status, power, and wealth. It was previously believed that the Iron Age elite in Britain was concentrated in the south, but this discovery proves that powerful and wealthy people also lived in the north, actively interacting with continental Europe and even with the Roman Empire. This discovery is unique not only for Britain, but for all of Europe. The scale of the ritual destruction of valuables speaks to the incredible power and influence of the owner of the hoard, possibly the chief of the Brigantes tribe, one of the largest in ancient Britain. Speleologists found an ancient mine. British speleologists who were exploring caves in the vicinity of Ordeley Edge came across a cobalt mine that has remained untouched since it was sealed and abandoned by miners more than 200 years ago. The lack of oxygen in the mine turned it into an underground time capsule and preserved the items left behind by the workers. The discovery was made in the fall of 2021 by the Derbyshire Caving Club, which was exploring the network of mines at Waldery Edge in Cheshire County. Finding a mine in its original state with personal belongings and inscriptions is rare. It's a real window into the past, to the last day when the miners stopped working here. Written records and archaeological data indicate that copper, lead, and cobalt were mined at Waldery Edge during the Roman Empire, the Bronze Age, and between the 1690s and the 1920s. Now, the network of cave passages belongs to the National Trust, but since the 1970s, it has been leased to the Derbyshire Caving Club. The latest mine they discovered goes 10 meters underground. It was found by the club thanks to a depression in the landscape, indicating a collapsed mine entrance. Experts believe that the mine, where cobalt was once extracted, was abandoned around the year 1810. Speleologists from the Derbyshire Caving Club discovered numerous personal belongings and equipment in the mine, which were discarded by the workers just before the mine was sealed. These include leather shoes, clay pipes, a metal button from a jacket, mining equipment, and inscriptions made with candle soot on the walls. A clay bowl was also found here, sealed into the wall, which may have been done by superstitious miners as a sign of gratitude for a good source of minerals. They also discovered clearly defined fingerprints pressed into clay balls that once held candles, and the imprint of corduroy from a worker's clothing as he turned toward the wall. Jamie Lunt, an archaeologist from the National Trust, said, "This discovery helps us understand a lesser-known chapter in the mining history of Waldery Edge, where mines have been explored and exploited for 4,000 years. A one-of-a-kind artifact, a Viking Age bracelet over 1,000 years old, was found near the settlement of Led on the Swedish island of Elland. During the Viking Age, Elland was an important craft and trade center that actively interacted with regions to the south and east of the Baltic Sea. The bracelet was discovered by a private individual in a marshy area. Experts note that the find is unique. Most jewelry of that time was made of silver or bronze, whereas this piece is made of iron, which is an extremely rare material for this type of item. According to the State Historical Museum, out of more than 1,000 bracelets found, only 3 were made of iron. However, the artifact found on Elland has no direct analogs. Animal heads appear at the bracelet's ends, with rows of dots forming an intricate pattern along its length. Thanks to the low oxygen content in the marshy soil, the bracelet has been preserved in excellent condition. Researchers suggest that the bog may have been a site for ritual offerings and plan to continue excavations using metal detectors. Stone tools in America at the Buttermilk Creek archaeological excavations in central Texas. Michael Waters, director of the Center for the Study of the First Americans at Texas A&M University, and his team discovered projectile points, blades, and other tools that date beyond the established timeframes. Researchers have long believed that people migrated to North America after crossing the Bering Strait from Siberia at the end of the last ice age. This is the oldest archaeological site in North America. It proves that people passed through the Bering Strait area before the ice retreated. They probably traveled south along the west coast, possibly by boat, to reach the mainland of North and South America and spread across the continents. Ivory dice. Archaeologists from India discovered unique rectangular ivory dice during excavations in Kijade, Sivaganga district. These bones served as entertainment items for the upper class of society in ancient times. This is the first time a rectangular die has been discovered in Kijade, while cube-shaped dice were found during previous excavations. Archaeologists from Tamil Nadu specified that the bone was found at a depth of 30 to 40 centimeters. Its dimensions are 4.5 centimeters in length, 0.9 centimeters in height and thickness. There are marks on 4 sides of the bone indicating the numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4. In Tamil literature, this bone is known as Padagaikai, which means a 4-sided bone. Radiocarbon analysis of charcoal found in Kijade showed that the settlement existed here since 200 BCE, proving that urban civilization in Tamil Nadu already existed during the Sangam era. A separate form of life. Scientists are once again revising their views on one of the most mysterious inhabitants of ancient Earth, the organism Prototaxites. For a long time, it was considered a giant fungus, but new research has cast doubt even on this version. According to paleontologists, Prototaxites was neither a plant, nor a fungus, nor an animal. It may have represented a separate, completely extinct branch of the tree of life. These strange creatures lived about 420 to 375 million years ago and were the first giants on land. Some of them reached 8 meters in height and a meter in width. They were first discovered back in the 19th century, and for a long time they were thought to be the remains of ancient trees. Later, in 2007, researchers suggested that these were fungi. Chemical analyses indicated this, showing that Prototaxites fed on organic matter like modern fungi. However, a new study based on a fossil of the species Prototaxites taitae found in Scotland produced opposite results. Scientists discovered that these organisms lack chitin, a key component of fungal cells. However, they contain substances similar to lignin, which is characteristic of plants but with a different structure. Prototaxites had a unique structure. Their bodies were made up of various tubes, unlike those of fungi. No modern creature combines these features: complex multicellularity, specific chemical composition, and method of nutrition. Researchers believe that this could have been a representative of a previously unknown group of eukaryotes, organisms with a nucleus in their cells. Why Prototaxites disappeared still remains a mystery. Perhaps they were displaced by more efficient plants or fungi that took over their ecological niche. Prototaxites remains a mysterious reminder of how strange and diverse life was at the dawn of Earth's ecosystems. The incredible preservation of the dagger. If I had seen this photo earlier, I would have noted the excellent work of the reenactors who created a beautiful replica of the famous early imperial legionary dagger, the Pugio. But this is not a replica at all. It's a completely real, genuine dagger, about 2,000 years old, which was once carried by a Roman legionary. Moreover, it wasn't found in some forgotten royal treasury, in a museum storage, or in a private collection. But in March 2019, during the excavations of an ancient Roman burial ground from the 1st century AD near a legionary camp by the town of Haltern am See in Westphalia, Germany. This is how it looked when it was found. Once again, for comparison, this is the result of incredibly meticulous, painstaking work by a group of restoration scientists. Speaking of the dagger, it should be noted that not only the dagger was found, but also, as you can see, the remarkable scabbard it was in, the legionary's belt itself, and the fittings used to attach it to the belt. An amazing discovery. In the entire history of archaeology, this is only the second such find. but in terms of preservation, it is absolutely unique. The dagger was found by a 19-year-old intern, Nico Kelmon, during routine seasonal excavations of an ancient Roman burial ground conducted by archaeologists from the Westphalia-Lippe Landscape Association and the University of Trier. This was definitely the most interesting find during all the excavations here. The Roman burial ground has yielded very little. Mostly they found ceramic urns with ashes here, and then suddenly they found something like this, practically outside the burial ground, right on its edge. The belt and fittings were not removed from the ground on site. Instead, they were fixed with plaster and transported along with the clump of earth, without disturbing the integrity of the find. The numerous decorations on the handle and scabbard immediately catch the eye. The silver patterns are created with inlays of the finest silver wire. The thinnest pieces of silver wire are only 0.15 millimeters thick. They were arranged in a herringbone pattern with diagonal, vertical, and horizontal designs, creating beautiful geometric patterns. Leaves, diamonds, semicircles, and rectangles. Red enamel, studded with sparkling red gemstones, decorates both the scabbard and the handle. During the work, it was discovered that the dagger blade was made from different types of steel that were forged together in the smithy. But no matter how beautiful our dagger and its scabbard may seem, it is not just a luxurious ceremonial ornament. This is a real combat dagger, a pugio, a close combat weapon of a legionary. There are signs of wear on the blade. We don't even know who the owner of the dagger was. A centurion, a decanus, or just a legion veteran. But we are grateful to him for this priceless gift, which allowed us to see the work of unknown ancient Roman craftsmen who created this magnificent dagger almost 2,000 years ago. Smaller than a hobbit. Scientists made an amazing discovery in South Africa. They found the remains of the shortest ancient human known to science. We're talking about a representative of the species Paranthropus robustus, who lived about 2 million years ago. He was less than a meter tall and weighed about 27 kilograms, which makes him even shorter than the famous Homo floresiensis hobbits. The unique remains were found in the Swartkrans cave. Archaeologists discovered articulated bones of the thigh, shin, and pelvis. Everything indicates that the adult individual was probably a woman. Despite her tiny size, researchers believe she had a well-developed brain for her time, and possibly she was able to make simple stone and bone tools. Paranthropus robustus is a side branch on the tree of human evolution. They had a powerful skull, strong jaws, and teeth adapted to coarse plant food. They were not direct ancestors of Homo sapiens, but lived at the same time and shared the same landscapes. Interestingly, the discovery greatly changed our understanding of the variability of this species. Previously, it was believed that Paranthropus were larger, but now it is becoming clear that there could be significant differences in height and body build within a single species, perhaps due to sex, climate, or living conditions. The mystery of the Iron Pillar. In the Quwwatul-Islam Mosque complex in New Delhi, India, there is an interesting object. A 1,600-year-old iron pillar that never rusts and has never corroded over all this time. The pillar, which is 7 meters tall, 41 centimeters in diameter, and weighs 6 tons, is called an ancient wonder of metalworking. It is believed that it was erected during the reign of King Kumaragupta I in the period between 320 and 540 AD. The fact that the pillar has stood in the open for 1,000 years without corroding has puzzled many scientists. They spent decades trying to solve the mysteries of the pillar, and it was only in 2003 that a bit of clarity was achieved. For a long time, many believed that the pillar was made from some kind of extraterrestrial iron, while another theory suggested that a special alloy was used in Indian metallurgy at that time. Analysis of the old iron production technology revealed that a protective film containing phosphorus formed during the process. This is what prevents corrosion to this day. According to Dr. Balasubramaniam from the Institute, nowadays, phosphorus is removed from iron, but the ancient Indians did not do this. This preserved the strength of the iron and also led to the formation of a unique protective layer. In modern iron, the phosphorus content is less than 0.05%, but the wrought iron from which the pillar is made contains 1% phosphorus. As is often the case with ancient wonders, the pillar has suffered a bit at the hands of people. It is believed that it will bring good luck to anyone who can wrap their arms completely around it. For years, people tried to hug the pillar, which led to visible discoloration at its base. Later, the local authorities realized the danger and erected a protective fence around the pillar. The ring and human fingers. Not far from the ancient cities of Corinth, in a place called Heliomodon in the Peloponnese, archaeologists made an amazing discovery: a large tomb from the Hellenistic period, which over time turned into a sanctuary. The tomb, built between 323 and 330 BC, has the shape of an elongated letter T. The central burial chamber, about 7.4 meters long and nearly 3 meters wide, was sealed with a stone slab resembling a door. Inside, researchers found a sarcophagus with the remains of a woman, 5 rectangular stone boxes, and numerous valuable artifacts. Of particular interest was a gold signet ring depicting Apollo, next to whom is a snake, an ancient symbol of healing that later became the emblem of medicine. Next to it, they found gold leaves from a funerary wreath, coins, perfume bottles, beads, and small metal objects. The tomb was used for more than a century. During the Roman period, roughly between 250 and 450 AD, it became a place of worship. Outside of it, archaeologists found anatomical votive offerings, fingers, and a part of a hand, which were likely left by pilgrims praying for miraculous healing. The 260-day calendar. How many days are there in a year? That's something everyone on our planet knows. But for most people, that number is 365. While for the inhabitants of some parts of Mesoamerica, that number is 260. Just like 3,000 years ago, these people still use calendars with 260 days in a year. And just recently, researchers found the earliest evidence that ancient stone structures were used to mark the seasons. Using lidars and aerial photography, archaeologists discovered hundreds of architectural complexes that were aligned to facilitate synchronized observations of the risings and settings of the sun, the moon, and other celestial objects according to this 260-day cycle. This calendar was most likely invented based on the cycle of growing corn and human reproduction. The earliest documented evidence of the use of this calendar was a glyph depicting 7 deer, one of the days of the calendar, as part of a 3rd century BC fresco in Guatemala. Unfortunately, these cultures did not leave written records from earlier periods, so it was difficult for scholars to prove that people used the 260-day year cycle until archaeologists found the stone remains of a giant calendar. Judging by the size of this structure, it was of great importance to the Olmecs, the Maya, and other cultures of that time, at least during the period when maize cultivation became widespread in the region. Excavating in impenetrable jungles is a very difficult task, so aerial photography with LiDAR has become a real miracle for archaeologists. Thanks to these capabilities, researchers can know in advance where they should conduct their excavations. In addition to the stone calendar, specialists have found many other structures, pyramids, and temples, and very soon in my next videos, I will definitely tell you about them. In the meantime, we will head to Israel, where archaeologists are said to have found the tomb of Christ's midwife. One of the oldest mosques in the world, Israeli archaeologists have discovered a rare ancient mosque in the south of the country, which, according to specialists, sheds light on the region's transition from Christianity to Islam. The remains of the mosque, which are believed to be more than 1,200 years old, were discovered during construction work for a new neighborhood in the Bedouin city of Rahat. The mosque, located in the Negev desert, consists of a square room and a wall facing Mecca, with a semicircular niche in that wall pointing south. These unique architectural features show that the building was used as a mosque. A luxurious estate was also discovered near the mosque, with remains of tableware and glass artifacts indicating the wealth of its residents. 3 years ago, authorities excavated another mosque of the same era nearby, dating back to the 7th-8th centuries AD, calling the two mosques among the earliest known in the world. The mosques, estates, and other houses found nearby shed light on the historical process that took place in the northern Negev with the emergence of a new religion, the religion of Islam, as well as new governance and culture in the region.
Внеземной металл в древних захоронениях.
Archaeologists have made a sensational discovery in Poland that changes our understanding of the technical capabilities of ancient societies. In two early Iron Age burials, dating back to before the Common Era, researchers discovered 4 artifacts, 3 bracelets and a pin, all made from meteoritic iron. These items were found in Częstochowa in southern Poland and were kept in the local museum for a long time. Only recently, with the help of modern technology, their unique origin was established. Analysis of the metal composition using X-ray scanning and electron microscopy showed that the iron contains a high amount of nickel and cobalt, which is characteristic of rare ataxite meteorites. Moreover, the ornaments on the bracelets were probably made using different types of iron, possibly to create a pattern. This may be the oldest known example of patterned iron known to mankind. Meteoric iron is not just a metal. In ancient times, it was often considered a gift from the heavens and used to create objects for special purposes. Similar finds exist, for example, in the tomb of Tutankhamun in Egypt, where a dagger made of meteoric iron was found. And now there is confirmation that such technologies were known in Europe centuries before Rome. Scientists suggest that the iron was probably sourced locally, possibly after the observed fall of a meteorite. This confirms that the items had not only practical, but also ritual value. The Petrified Book. Archaeologists from Australia stumbled upon a mysterious artifact resembling a book, which is estimated to be over 330 million years old. Yes, I know that not everyone likes it when I talk about thousands and millions of years. That's why such a discovery sparked a lot of debate and speculation among scientists. Thomas Kaminsky, a researcher of antiquity, claims that they found a mineralized book with a metal binding, but it can no longer be read. Professor of archaeology Jane Baum was also amazed by the find, although she expressed doubts about its antiquity. Other experts are surprised at how the pages of the book have been preserved for millions of years. Professor of geology Ian Plimer explains that under certain conditions, in an oxygen environment and under pressure, paper can become petrified. Kaminsky believes that the depth at which the book was found indicates its authenticity. Nevertheless, the question remains, why does the book look like a modern copy? Could this be an artifact left by a time traveler? Excavations at the imperial residence, recently excavations at the legendary Golden House of Nero, the Domus Aurea in Rome, have yielded an important discovery. Archaeologists have found a rare Egyptian blue pigment, one of the most expensive and technologically complex pigments of antiquity. This discovery not only reveals details about the luxury in which the emperor lived, but also says a lot about the advanced artistic practices of ancient Rome. The Domus Aurea was built in the 1st century AD, after a fire destroyed most of the city. This palace became the embodiment of imperial power, with marble halls, artificial lakes, and frescoes created by the famous artist Famulus. At the site of the former workshops, archaeologists discovered vessels containing various elements, among which a massive ingot of Egyptian blue weighing 2 kilograms stands out. This pigment was produced using a complex technology. A mixture of copper, limestone, and sand was fired at a temperature of about 900 degrees. The recipe was also described by Vitruvius, the Roman architect and theorist. The blue color was considered a symbol of divinity and eternity, and its use emphasized the high status of the patron. Interestingly, Egyptian blue was also used during the Renaissance. There is reason to believe that masters, including Raphael himself, were inspired by ancient recipes. Thus, the pigment from Nero's palace became a kind of bridge between antiquity and the art of the 16th century. The pyramids we see today are far from how they looked when they were first built. Don't believe it? Let's dive into history. Ancient engineers used an astonishing 6.1 million tons of limestone to erect the main pyramid of Giza, the largest and oldest of them all. It was built by order of Pharaoh Khufu. But what do you think it looked like before? No, it wasn't sand-colored. It was covered with a shiny layer of limestone. But unfortunately, over time, many of the facing stones were reused. This probably started during the reign of Tutankhamun and continued for many centuries. Add to this the earthquake of 1303 AD, which shook them a bit. Nowadays, the pyramids still amaze us with their durability. For example, the Pyramid of Khafre, which has even preserved some of its original facing stones. It looks as if one peak is wedged into another. It's amazing. On top of the pyramids, so-called pyramidions were installed covered with electrum, a shiny mixture of gold and silver. Unfortunately, most of them have been lost over time, but some examples can still be seen in museums. Crocodile heads in tombs. The Theban necropolis, located on the west bank of the Nile opposite Thebes in Upper Egypt, was used in ancient times for the ritual burials of most pharaohs. During another excavation at this site, Polish archaeologists found crocodile heads in the tombs of Egyptian nobles. These were the tombs of Sheti, an important official during the reign of Pharaoh Nebuchadnezzar Mentuhotep II, and of some anonymous high-ranking official. In these tombs, 9 crocodiles wrapped in cloth were discovered. The heads were not mummified, as was usually the case in ancient Egypt. The crocodiles belonged to the species Crocodilus niloticus, a large crocodile that inhabits the freshwater rivers of Africa. Unfortunately, the crocodile skulls were incomplete. In one case, there was part of a jaw, in another, a skull fragment. The fact is that the first excavations at this site were carried out more than 50 years ago, and at that time, animal bones were not as highly valued by archaeologists and researchers. And if bones were found, they were simply thrown into a pile or burned. Back then, it was believed that animal bones had no value. It was much easier to find a mummy and sell it to collectors, or process it into powder and sell it as medicine. Gold jewelry was also valued at all times. But who would need a crocodile skull that's thousands of years old? In ancient Egypt, crocodiles were worshipped in the form of the god Sobek. Sobek is associated with the Nile or West African crocodile and is depicted either as a full crocodile or as a man with the head of a crocodile. The deepest well in the world. Next to the Nuffield Hospital in Woodingdean, near Brighton, at first glance you might not notice anything unusual. A small brick circle covered with a metal lid. However, behind this modest appearance lies the 19th century engineering marvel, the Woodingdean Well, the deepest hand-dug well in the world. It is 390 meters deep and has become a symbol of Victorian stubbornness and engineering perseverance. The story began in the 1850s when the authorities of Brighton decided to build a new workhouse and a school for troubled teenagers on the top of Elm Grove Hill. To save money on connecting to the water supply, it was decided to dig their own well. The idea seemed simple. Dig down 120 meters and water should be found. But things turned out differently. After 2 years of hard work, no water appeared. The contractors dug side tunnels one after another, but without success. Then, unwilling to give up, it was decided to dig even deeper. In the narrow well, only 1.5 meters wide, the workers labored under incredibly harsh conditions. They laid brick lining, breathed through pipes supplying air, and lit their way with smoking candles. Heat, stuffiness, and the risk of collapse accompanied them every day. Construction costs kept rising. Each week, the project cost the city £90, which was an enormous sum at that time. And yet, after 4 years, at a depth of almost 400 meters, water finally gushed in. The workers had to urgently get to the surface, and it took them 45 minutes to climb up. The irony is that after such titanic efforts, the well was used for only 4 years. Soon, a more efficient water supply system was installed, and the grand shaft lost its significance. Today, the well is closed, surrounded by a wall, and securely sealed. But it is still there, a reminder of those times when people, for the sake of ideas, were ready to dig, quite literally, to the very center of the earth. Golden bead. A tiny golden bead discovered in Bulgaria is considered the oldest known example of a crafted gold object ever found. It is 6,500 years old. Its diameter is only 1/8 of an inch, and it was found at a site called Tel Yunatsit, where researchers also discovered hundreds of ceramic bird figurines that may have been used in religious ceremonies. This area was home to the Balkan civilizations of the Copper Age, where metal production was advanced and people had extensive trade networks. Aliens appeared on Earth before humans. Researchers from Harvard and Montana Technological University have put forward a hypothesis that could radically change our understanding of aliens' place in the universe and on our planet. According to their theory, aliens arrived on Earth long before humans appeared, and instead of leaving, they decided to stay underground. This idea has been called the crypto-terrestrial hypothesis. The authors suggest that aliens settled on Earth millions of years ago, possessing advanced technologies. With the emergence of humanity, they decided to hide, possibly to avoid interfering directly in the development of civilization. However, from time to time, they helped people with advice, technologies, and knowledge, which led people to consider them gods. According to scientists, there is a lot of evidence for this, from mysterious artifacts and images of flying saucers on ancient engravings to structures that were impossible for their time. Interestingly, researchers consider not only the Earth's interior as possible alien bases, but also the Moon, especially its dark side, Mars, and the depths of the oceans. The Alaskan Triangle is also mentioned, where UFOs are regularly observed and mysterious disappearances of people are recorded. According to another version, the aliens could have arrived on Earth on a planet ship after leaving their dying star. This hypothesis explains how they managed to overcome the vast interstellar distances. They may have left their planet on the outskirts of the solar system, beyond Pluto's orbit. Skeptics, of course, point to the lack of direct evidence, but the authors insist we still know little about what is hidden beneath the Earth, in the ocean trenches, and on the far side of the Moon. Perhaps intelligent life has long been nearby. It just doesn't want to be discovered. Whether to believe the researchers from Harvard or not is up to each person to decide. I'm just sharing the latest discoveries and interesting facts about our history, which hides a lot of fascinating and incredible things from us. Thank you for watching this video until the end. Goodbye, everyone.